Tonight, a housing protest enters its second week, and a government plan to deal with homelessness is years late.
There are now more than 30 people living in tents here on Confederation Hill.
Every day our population's gone up 1, 2, and 3, 4 people. Last night we had 2 people come in, I think it was after 12. This morning we had another person come in.
I'd like to believe that the Premier, when he looks out from his office, sees this as a constant reminder that his government needs to do better by these people and by others.
I'll have more on that story coming up on Here and Now.
It's an amazing opportunity. I mean, Toronto Maple Leafs organization is first class in everything they do, and their support has allowed the Growlers to be successful from day one and continue to be successful.
The Newfoundland Growlers have a new head coach. Longtime NHL player and Stanley Cup champion Matt Cook will be behind the bench this season.
So that's why I'm getting a lot of success with them. So I'm pushing them a lot, but fun, in a fun way.
New coach, new style. I'll introduce you to Coach Soto, the newest addition to the Corner Brook Baseball Association, a professional pitcher who's now calling Corner Brook home.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with the housing protest on Confederation Hill. Protesters have been staying in tents there for over a week, and even though they've been offered shelter space. Here and Now's Heather Gillis has more.
The tent encampment across from the Confederation building is growing. About 20 tents dot the parkway, with some out of the wind below the crest of the hill. Organizers say there are now about 30 people living here.
Every day our population's gone up 1, 2, and 3, 4 people. Last night we had 2 people come in, I think it was after 12. This morning we had another person come in. So I mean, the population, as you can tell, is growing pretty quickly. And I'm sure there's probably more to come.
Police were visiting the encampment this morning, checking in. It's cold here, and some of the homeless protesters are growing weary as dreary weather sets in. Newfoundland and Labrador Housing has offered people here living in the tents spaces and shelters that are staffed with access to services. Some are considering making the move, but they want assurances if they go into the shelter system, that'll be a pathway to a permanent home.
Just as long as the government can document, give us some kind of letter or something stating that it's transitional for a certain period, that's not the end game, and there will be a permanent setting at the end, then I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. Because it gets all of the people that are behind me inside so that they're not going to have to deal with the rain, the snow.
You know, if you don't see it in writing, they can just get you to move here and put you in a place for 2 or 3 days and ship you off somewhere else. And I mean, that's half the problem with us people here. We're being shipped around, and shipped around. There's no structure, there's no, stability. It's just here, there, gone again.
We're not going anywhere until we get apartments.
Penny Mutry is one protester who doesn't want to go in the shelter system, even if it's temporary. She says most protesters agree with her.
Let's say 80% of us, it would be fair to say, we've not agreed to the transitional housing for the simple fact that it's a repetitive circle.
NDP leader Jim Dinn has been advocating for people here every day. He says housing issues are the worst he's seen since he was elected in 2019. Dinn says a case in point, a 78-year-old woman was brought here over the weekend. He says she's since found a place in a shelter.
Emergency shelters, the key word is emergency, but when emergency shelters become the norm, there's a problem here.
Meanwhile, Dinn says the demonstration has given something to the protesters. A voice.
I'd like to believe that the Premier, when he looks out from his office, sees this as a constant reminder that his government needs to do better by these people and by others.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, that's how the situation looked across the street from Confederation Building today. But inside the legislature, Liberal governments have been promising a plan to deal with housing and homelessness for the past 6.5 years. Now, with the crisis deepening and sleeping on the government's doorstep, that plan still hasn't happened.
Our government understands that safe, stable, and affordable housing is fundamental to the social and economic well-being of individuals, families, and our communities.
We were working on the provincial housing plan.
Can the minister provide this House with an update on the strategy today?
This government will put forward a program and plan the end of June.
Where is her proposed provincial housing strategy and plan to end homelessness?
Homelessness and ending homelessness will be a key pillar in our plan once it comes out, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the details of this agreement are key to the development of the Provincial Housing and Homelessness Plan, which we will release in 2019.
People need better housing now, and I hope that what comes forth from her in 2019 is a plan that has both action and money attached to it, so housing can be dealt with.
Will the Premier commit to implementing this 5-year plan to end homelessness in St. John's?
We're going to be releasing a provincial housing and homelessness plan.
The need for seniors' accessible housing and home care services in Labrador West is steadily increasing.
One of the things that our agency will be doing through the Newfoundland and Labrador Housing Corporation is to develop a housing and homelessness plan for the next couple of years. Stay tuned for future. As part of our review of our housing and homelessness plan, there are the types of issues we're hearing as well, and we'll incorporate that in our work in the years ahead.
So that was 3 housing ministers answering 6 years of questions from the opposition about the government's housing and homelessness plan. Now advocates are raising questions about the status of that commitment. Rob Antle has the details.
Below the home of the provincial government, a continuing protest over housing and homelessness issues.
Instead of people sleeping in tents downtown the way they have been all summer, suddenly they're sleeping on Andrew Furey's front lawn, and so I suspect there'll be a strategy for that problem soon. But what we haven't seen is an overall housing strategy.
Dan Mead says that shows a lack of commitment to the people of the province.
If this government cared at all about poor people and people that were experiencing homelessness in Newfoundland and Labrador, they'd have a plan to fix it. You understand what government cares about because they implement plans and they do things. This government isn't without a focus. It just isn't the people of the province who need it the most. They're not focused on the vulnerable. They're not focused on the housing insecure. They're not focused on poor Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
The province did not directly answer questions about the status of the housing and homelessness plan and did not grant interview requests, but in a statement said additional initiatives to make housing more affordable will be shared in the coming weeks.
Delays always impact people's lives. They can't wait forever for some actions that will help relieve the problems and the issues that they face. And housing is a key issue for people.
Sharon Callahan sees the impact of the housing crisis, especially on seniors.
We need the government to act quickly.
Last week, the Premier told reporters an announcement is coming soon on a housing strategy moving forward. But it appears that won't be the comprehensive housing plan announced years ago. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, some breaking news now. CBC News has learned Takora Resources will seek creditor protection. The company owns Wabush Mines in Western Labrador. United Steelworkers President Joshua Joy says the company has told them the operation will continue with no layoffs and no cuts to pay or benefits. He said the move comes after an investor fell through. Takora employs a total of 280 unionized workers. Well, now to the Middle East. Israel is pounding Gaza with the fiercest airstrikes to date in the 4th day of the conflict with Hamas. It's in retaliation for a surprise attack by militants on Saturday. It marks the single deadliest day for Jews since the founding of Israel. More than 1,000 Israelis have been killed. Palestinians say more than 800 people have been killed on their side. Thousands more have been wounded on both sides. Israel says it's finally secured its border with Gaza. The territory is under a total siege by Israel with a blockade on food, water, fuel, and medicine. Morgues in Gaza overwhelmed, and they're struggling to bury the dead. Aid groups are urging the creation of a humanitarian corridor to bring assistance into Gaza. Meantime, rockets continue to rain down on Israeli cities from the territory. Israel has mobilized 360,000 reservists. Western countries, including Canada, are strongly backing Israel in the conflict. Well, a court case over who is Indigenous and who isn't has been delayed. The federal court was set to hear the Innu Nation's challenge that Nunatuavut in Labrador isn't an Indigenous group. Nunatuavut signed a memorandum of understanding with Ottawa in 2019, laying the path for a land claim. But both the Innu Nation and Nunatsiavut say NCC members aren't Indigenous, and they're asking the court to quash that claim. Members of the Innu Nation were in Ottawa today to talk about the court case.
These kinds of recognition decisions are not just favors to be bestowed on groups that the minister wants to give them to. It's about history, it's about the law, and that's what government decision makers have to conform to.
Well, Nunatuavut says a new date for the case should be set within 6 months. In a statement, they said Innu Nation's stance is baseless and accused the group of spreading misinformation. Well, the province is trying to lure more doctors to Grand Falls, Windsor, and Deer Lake areas by offering them a $200,000 signing bonus. The health department is opening a new collaborative care clinic in Grand Falls, Windsor, and will need 2 physicians along with nurse practitioners to staff the operation. But the former head of the NLMA, who is also a doctor in the area, says even though the extra money is a good start, the problems aren't all financial.
Are good carrots to help draw people into the system. But we've continued to say, and I think government has continued to recognize, that the system has to function better. There's no amount of money that's going to make somebody, work to a point of being burned out and overwhelmed.
I mean, the financial aspect is part of that. We can put an incentive in place. The other issues, we'll work with the NLMA on resolving the outstanding issues.
Well, the opposition says the new clinic is a good move, but the party's health critic wonders where government will find the staff to fill it and whether new bonuses will be enough.
You're still going to need staff to go in these clinics. And obviously the dollars aren't working, so there's something else that's not working in the recruitment and retention program that this government claims to have. I still haven't seen a real plan, but something's not working, obviously.
Well, it has certainly been a rainy day out there for a good chunk of the West Coast in particular. We do have lots of heavy rain out there. It's moving north now at the moment, but it's starting to slowly spread east and north and will continue to do so as we head through the night tonight. You can see the satellite picture there, those oranges and yellows showing some of that heavier shower activity. And if we take a look at what's going on right now, not a whole lot different than it was yesterday, but this system is pulling moisture definitely from the Gulf of Mexico there. And this will continue to affect us as we head through the night tonight and into tomorrow, at least for the Avalon. But this area of high pressure offshore that is keeping us in that onshore flow. And that means that we are looking at the RDF continuing. Quite significant rainfall amounts. Port aux Basques, 58.8 millimeters of rain. Stephenville, just over 30 millimeters. And Rec House area saw about 22.4 millimeters. Now, like I said, it is going to continue. It will taper to showers, but I'll get into those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the Newfoundland Growlers introduced its new coaching staff today at the Mary Brown Centre in St. John's. Former NHLer and Stanley Cup winner Matt Cook will be behind the bench this season for the Growlers. The well-known NHL Pest signed on with the team just days ago and only got to the province over the weekend. He'll be joined by Bonavista's Adam Pardy, who also enjoyed success in the NHL. The two spoke with the media earlier today.
Wow. It's real. An amazing opportunity. I mean, Toronto Maple Leafs organization is first class in everything they do, and their support has allowed the Growlers to be successful from day one and continue to be successful, and fully expect that that support continues and will help us be successful this year.
You know, you look at Matt and the experience he has playing, these players are going to be very lucky to have a guy like him leading them, and you know, everything that he's been through. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's won on different levels. He's played with some really great leaders, and so he has a lot of that information and experience that he can pass on. And, just here in the last couple of days, you can see the energy he has and the excitement that he has to be here in this role. And I know he's going to have a lot of success in it.
As a coach, I view games as a Broadway show. Practice is the coach's time to help players be in a state where they can go out and be successful and be prepared. And the game is for them to prove to me what they know. In a Broadway show, when they make a mistake, it doesn't stop, right? It keeps going. You're not going to make a ton of adjustments or corrections in game. That happens the next day in practice. And so it's kind of been my approach coaching-wise. And I've been fortunate to have groups that's been successful with, and it's something that I'll continue on with.
There's going to be an endless amount of work. You look at the schedule, and we're next Friday, so there's going to be a lot of work to get up to speed. Nothing we can't handle, but there's going to be a lot of things. First thing is about getting our lineup shored up and making sure guys know a system and not overload them too much that way. But there's a lot of work to get done here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get ready for it, and we'll take things as they come, get through that first weekend, and keep moving on.
I hope I'm not here one and done. I mean, I have a 2-year contract, and so at least for the next couple of years we're here. So, but I've been here 2 days and excited for the path and the move forward. So, can't wait to get players in here and get started.
Well, baseball is changing in Corner Brook thanks to a new head coach who spent 20 years pitching professionally all over the globe. Now players are jumping at the chance to practice every day of the week. Here now's Colleen Connors reports.
This is how practice looks during Corner Brook's fall ball season. Precision, repetition, perfection.
I love it.
Why?
It just makes us all better.
Well, baseball has been teaching me a lot, and I just want to pass my knowledge with the new kids.
Boom. It's all because of this man, Coach Anzelbert Soto from Venezuela.
I started, professional at the age of 17. I was chasing my dream when I was 12, and then I worked 5 years really hard every day, and I get drafted by Houston Astros. I played with them for 8 years, and after that I went in Mexico, Italy, and I ended up in Japan. Stay close, stay close.
His passion is pitching, but 5 years ago he stopped doing it professionally and started training the next generation at his own baseball academies in Miami and Venezuela. Then about a year ago he saw an ad for a head coach job in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. He applied, and the association worked hard to get him and his wife here.
Everybody's been super excited about him. He's doing such a great job, and all the feedback we get is 100% positive. Everybody's happy with the skills he's teaching and his overall engagement with the players. There's not a player he doesn't meet that he doesn't take to and try to find something he can work on with them.
He's so nice, and he's made my pitching so much better.
Tell me more about that.
Before he first came, I was throwing a lot of balls up high, and he's taught me to bring it down and control it and throw faster and harder.
I've never seen a coach like it. He's super understanding, and he has so much different techniques, and he's introduced me to so much new stuff.
And that new stuff happens at every practice. Soto is always thinking of new ways to improve practice and change it up so it's fun for the players. Coach Soto will continue to have practices like these as long as the fall ball season continues with this beautiful warm weather. His contract right now is for 3 years, but the Baseball Association hopes he sticks around long term. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, St. John's says it wants to welcome ride sharing to help improve downtown safety amid an ongoing taxi shortage. But are we making any headway to bring Uber to the city? Here now's Jessica Singer explains.
It's the weekend. You're downtown and you're waiting for a taxi. As time goes by, you think to yourself, what's the holdup in bringing Uber to St. John's? Well, it doesn't actually seem like ride sharing is coming to the city anytime soon. Here's why. Back in January, Uber told CBC that laws have to change before they come here. Parts of the City of St. John's Act and parts of the Provincial Highway Traffic Act. Now, the city says its legal team is currently investigating changes to its taxi bylaw, so it does seem like the ball is kind of rolling on their end. But here's the catch. Uber sent a memo to the province because, you know, that's what the province asked. And in that memo, Uber was trying to be helpful. The company listed recommended changes to both municipal and provincial legislation. So even if the city changes its bylaws, ride-sharing companies will still have to follow the province's Highway Traffic Act. Uber says there are parts of that piece of legislation that it wants changed. Now, here's where things get a little more tangly. We asked the province what's up with this whole Uber thing. We received a statement. They said that ride-sharing is already permitted in Newfoundland and Labrador and that no changes need to be made to the Highway Traffic Act. So, what's the holdup? Well, it's a busy intersection filled with bureaucratic back and forth and a lot of tangled red tape. Got it? Or are you Uber confused?
Well, CBC Radio fans might have noticed that Monday marked the end of an era.
The National Research Council's official time signal. The beginning of the long dash following silence indicates exactly 1:30, 1 o'clock in most of Labrador.
That's a familiar sound. That's the national time signal. Those beeps and tones had run for more than 80 years, making it the longest running segment on CBC Radio. But both CBC and Radio Canada had stopped carrying the National Research Council time signal. In a statement, the CBC said given the range platforms from traditional over-the-air radio to satellite and the internet, the long dash undergoes a range of delays by the time it's heard, and that's led to accuracy concerns from the NRC.
Coming up on Here and Now, a lot of tech companies are launching in St. John's, but this one could really take off.
So there's a whole bunch of end users. I mean, it goes from military applications down to security, down to search and rescue for agriculture.
A different kind of drone, one that launches, flies, and lands with no pilot. Meet the inventor and the invention next on Here and Now.
Well, we certainly got some rain on the go for the West Coast. Most of us are going to be seeing rain within the next 24 hours, and I'll break down the forecast for you when I come back in a few minutes.
This weather update is brought to you by Steamatic Canada, the undisputed choice in restoration. Don't panic. Call Steamatic.
Ashley's here with a look at the weather and a dreary old day here in St. John's today.
Yeah, it certainly was. But, you know, as per usual in this type of flow, if you move just a little bit away from the onshore flow, you did see some sunshine today. I'm talking to CBS. You saw some sun. Parts of the Avalon certainly did. But it has definitely been a rainy day, especially towards the west coast. Also a cool day, and a cool day pretty much across the most of Canada anyway, with your temperature somewhere between 11 to about 13 degrees in Vancouver so far today. We do have some warmth through parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan at the moment, but we are looking at very fall-like temperatures, and that's really the story across the island as well. As you see, our temperatures are generally the coolest in the northern peninsula, southeastern portions of Labrador, only into the single digits. That's because you're seeing onshore flow, and really anywhere that is seeing that are seeing those temperatures a tad cooler. So 11 to 12 degrees for St. John's, Bonavista. You get away from that though, temperatures between 15, 16 degrees, Badger, Daniels Harbor, all seeing those similar temperatures. So if we take a look at the current temperatures, they've dropped a little bit, not by much, but down by a degree or two, pretty much everywhere. Still looking at those single digits up across northern portions of Labrador as well. And we have that rain. So we're pretty much sitting in the same position we were yesterday, with an area of low pressure to our west, area of high pressure to the east that is ushering all of those southeasterly winds or easterly winds our way. But we're tapping into some of the moisture, and that is evident by some of that heavy rain that we're seeing on the west coast, that moisture coming from the Gulf of Mexico. And it's starting to taper off. The showers, or the rain is starting to taper to showers, and will continue to do so as we head through the night tonight. Across Labrador, you're still looking at a generally gray night tonight. Periods of rain will move in for you, showers or periods of rain, and eventually they'll taper off for portions of the west coast. Now, as we head through the night tonight, we're looking at some of that heavier rain making its way further east, for pretty much affecting eastern Newfoundland. And then by the time we get into the early morning hours, we'll start to see some of that rain for the Avalon as well. Temperatures tonight are going to stay in the single digits across Labrador, northern peninsula, otherwise between 10 to about 14 degrees as your overnight low across the island, with those winds, the highest only about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, but they will be felt, those southeasterlies, for the eastern portion of the island. Now, as we head into tomorrow, we are looking at those periods of rain, like I said, generally continuing, likely just quick moving for now anyway across the Avalon. But for those of you in the southwest, it does look like you are going to see some sunshine tomorrow. Pretty much the Port-au-Port Peninsula through to Port aux Basques, and then over to maybe even Burgeo is where you're going to see lots of sunshine through the afternoon. It will slowly clear as we get to the evening hours, potentially as far as Corner Brook, and then as far as the Canagra Peninsula as well. We're definitely going to keep an eye on that, but for now, expect gray skies, the fog patches to continue, especially up across Labrador and towards the coast as we head through the night and into Thursday morning. Now, as we head into Thursday, unfortunately, we're going to continue to see this pattern. Most of us are looking at that chance of rain pretty much right through the weekend. In fact, some of the heavier rain should move in as we head into Friday. Now, as far as rainfall amounts are concerned over the next 24 to 36 hours, we're looking at that pocket of potentially heavy rain for the Burin Peninsula through the day, and then up across parts of Labrador as well. Your temperatures tomorrow are going to sit around 13 degrees through the afternoon. Southeasterly winds between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour rather through central. Maybe about 14 to 16 degrees, but the warmest temperatures will be when that sun comes out, and Port aux Basques will likely hover around 16 degrees through the day. Now, for the northern for the Labrador coast, especially towards the north, you are looking at about 7 degrees. Otherwise, your temperatures will hover between 10 to 12 degrees. Now, that's what we're looking at. What you see is what you get, but we'll talk about the long-range forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, drones are a huge hit with photographers and hobby pilots everywhere, but one local inventor wasn't satisfied with what commercial drones could do, so he started building his own. Now, after almost 10 years of tinkering, he's ready to launch his invention and his own tech company. Here now, Zach Gowdy has the story.
Often entrepreneurs kind of say, yes, we have to get that and that amount of money to actually take the company off the ground. For the lack of a better word, I find that's often BS. You don't need to raise money. You need actually to get the product going. You don't need to go the traditional way like VC investment and all that stuff. I know that's the easy answer, and that's the typical answer, but that's not the only answer.
East White Hills Road, the edge of town in St. John's, home to the usual mix of warehouses and industrial buildings. But if you look closely, you'll see something unusual, a sort of cage made out of fishing nets. It's a low-tech test site for a high-tech invention.
Hi, my name is Strobel. I'm a founder and CEO of Strobel Tech. And we build special kind of autonomous drone systems which take off on land from a docking station.
Inventor, immigrant, and entrepreneur Armin Strobel has a PhD in drone swarming, but he doesn't do the flying.
Yeah, you're good to go.
He gives the green light to an engineer back in the office who's watching the cage by remote camera. But she doesn't fly the drone either. She just presses the button.
Yeah, so the docking station just opened. I think I hear it spinning up right now. We have a few seconds, and then it comes out here.
It launches itself, it flies itself, it performs pre-programmed missions with no pilot at the controls. And then it does the really cool part.
There you see actually coming a funnel out to recover the drone. Yeah, so it landed in the docking station and the drone will be automatically recharged.
Is that a successful test flight?
Absolutely. No, every flight where we land in a docking station and gets recharged afterward is a successful flight. It didn't go always like this. I stopped counting prototypes by 25. It quite evolved a bit, bigger size, smaller size, and the company grew now quite a bit. We went from a hobby project to one-man company basically, where I was not sure if it's going to lead anywhere, where it was already multiple times looking for a job, to actually a company where we're growing and we're actually looking for people to join us.
Drones are big business, and there are many drones on the market with their own docking stations. The problem is most commercial drones are kind of delicate and finicky. This one is built for Newfoundland and Labrador. You can launch it from the back of a truck without getting out of the cab. Most drones need 4 rotors to fly, any one of which can break or hurt someone. Strobel's drone flies with just 1 rotor, safely shielded behind a tough outer shell. And most docking stations are much bigger and even more finicky than the actual drone. Strobel Tech's landing funnel may look a little funny, but on a windy day, it works. And that's what matters to the users Strobel has in mind.
So there's a whole bunch of end users. I mean, it goes from military applications down to security, down to agriculture, for search and rescue, for inspection. We have some interest in certain fields, but that's not the end actually of it. There's lots more.
There's a huge boom in tech companies launching in St. John's, and Strobel says his company is part of that story. But in some ways, they're flying solo, designing, building, and testing it all themselves, focused on the invention instead of investors.
You don't really need to raise lots of money to actually get things going. I think it's often holding back entrepreneurs actually to do something. You don't need to go the traditional way. You can always make your hobby to a job actually.
It's an unusual approach, but at Strobel Tech, unusual is how they fly. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Teacher wants you to do an essay on, let's say, revolution, like French Revolution, and you can ask ChatGPT to produce an essay on the French Revolution.
With the school year well underway, what role is artificial intelligence playing in the classroom? How can students and teachers use or misuse online tools like ChatGPT? We'll chat about it coming up. By now, you've probably heard about ChatGPT. It's an artificial intelligence tool launched last year that's making waves in the classroom. It's pretty simple to use. You type a question, any question, and in seconds, ChatGPT gives you a detailed, eerily human-like answer. You can ask it practical questions like, give me 3 cheap and healthy recipes and make a list of the ingredients. Or write a lullaby about the Muskrat Falls project. But how can ChatGPT be used in the classroom?
The teacher wants you to do an essay on, let's say, revolution, like French Revolution, and you can ask ChatGPT to produce an essay on the French Revolution. and it will certainly produce something.
What else can ChatGPT do for students? Well, let's ask it. Well, it says it can help with research, homework, and brainstorming, among other things. Teachers can also use ChatGPT for lesson planning, for example.
It is such a revolutionary tool. Both students and faculty are talking about this, and students also are amazed at the results. It has been certainly something that has taken everybody by, let's say, surprise, because it's been less than a year that the technology came out, and almost everybody knows about this. So it's almost like a viral phenomenon, right? It's not only being discussed, let's say, within the halls of university, it's being discussed within all these different levels of education, junior high, elementary. It's because it's such an accessible tool.
Accessible, but not perfect.
We have to understand that it's not an oracle that will tell you the truth all the time, but it will tell you things that are very credible, because it kind of mixes inputs from the real world and produces outputs that look like they have made in the real world.
So trusting it can get you into trouble, and so can using it to cut corners and plagiarize. But is using ChatGPT cheating?
It really depends on the frame that the instructor poses and says, like, these are the rules, how you are going to use it. If you go beyond the rules, then that probably is going to be considered cheating. The burden is on the let's say, academic faculty or in the academic community on setting up these rules ahead of the start of the game.
So teachers and students will have to have a good chat about ChatGPT, and it'll likely be an ongoing conversation.
One thing that is a kind of a consensus is that the tools are here to stay, right? So everybody knows that the tools are out there, and the tools are readily accessible for a lot of people. So you only need to go and create an account, and that's it. And so it's something that it's inevitably going to be part of life.
Well, sticking with artificial intelligence, automation and robotics are reshaping more than just education, but many parts of the economy as well, with the potential to shake up entire industries and jobs. Some companies in the meat processing sector see the possibility of big benefits, but embracing technology is proving to be a challenge. Kyle Bax explains.
Cutting, trimming, and deboning. Meat processing is one of the most labor-intensive industries. AI and other technology could help, but the sector is also one of the most difficult to modernize.
We're leveraged in many ways. We're making, small investments, but definitely behind the curve compared to some other sectors.
Working with meat is a challenge in itself, since no two animals are the same. So far, robotic equipment is not able to make precise cuts and can also struggle to accurately tell the difference between skin, fat, bone, and meat in chicken and turkey facilities.
Super difficult. Getting better, though. Robots are becoming more tactile.
Any equipment also has to be tough enough to operate in cool temperatures and withstand high-pressure spraying as part of a facility's routine sanitation. There are possible benefits from the improved technology, experts say, to overcome labor shortages or at least assist workers on the production line. Other potential improvements could include food safety and quality.
I'm not aware of anywhere where there are companies that have really sort of cutting-edge technology, pardon the pun, in a meatpacking plant. I think that the technology hasn't come far enough yet.
There is plenty at stake for the industry, especially with increasing competition from companies selling lab-grown meat and plant-based protein. That's why some experts say it's so important for meat packers to use more technology to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of their facilities across the country. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
We're learning more about Canadians who were caught up in the deadly violence on Saturday in Israel. Ben Mizrachi from Vancouver was killed after Hamas militants attacked at a music festival in southern Israel. His family is in Israel, where his funeral will take place on Wednesday. A federal MP from Vancouver Granville confirmed Mizrachi's death. Yesterday, a Montreal couple said their son, 33-year-old Alexander Luke, was killed at the same event while trying to save people around him.
We will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack.
U.S. President Joe Biden addressed the conflict between Israel and Hamas today from the White House and says the United States stands firmly on the side of Israel. Biden condemned the attacks by Hamas on Israel and said there's no justification for terrorism. The U.S. president said at least 14 American citizens are among those who died. Well, he was a beloved entertainer whose TV show was regular viewing for many children in Canada. Ernie Coombs was the man behind Mr. Dressup, and now there's a new documentary about his life and legacy. Eli Glasner has more on that.
Maybe you remember the music or the tickle trunk.
Oh, here's an interesting one.
If you're Canadian and a certain age, there's a good chance you spent a good part of your childhood with this guy.
Oh, would you like to have an airplane ride with me?
He was Ernie Coombs to his family, but for over 30 years, Mr. Dressup taught us how to make crafts and care. Coombs died in 2001, but a new documentary has him back on our screens with some surprising revelations.
Most people don't even realize that they were very close friends.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Coombs first met Fred Rogers working on his kids' show in the U.S. When the CBC hired Rogers to create a Mr. Rogers prototype, there was only one man who shared his vision.
It was a philosophy they shared. Fred Rogers chose Ernie very specifically to come to Canada.
I remember Dad telling us that.
Coombs' daughter says Fred Rogers inspired Dressup's direct style.
Fred told him to look at the camera as a child. That's the child that you're speaking to. It's not an audience, it's a child.
Well, that was an amazing gift. Thanks very much, Granny.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Dressup.
Like many, the puppeteer for Granny was starstruck when they met.
I just remember staring at him.
She says as families are feeling this squeeze, she misses his approach.
Hey, you got some tape and a piece of paper, which, you know, most people do have, that you can create whole worlds with something that is not really elaborate.
I like to save these, you know.
Turn on a kid's show today, and it's more animation than arts and crafts.
It's cheaper to make and easier to sell around the world and dub in other languages. But then you also have something that isn't grounded in anything real.
More than just an outpouring of affection, the documentary is a reminder of what Ernie Coombs left behind.
We can all choose to slow down, take the time, build something simple, just be present.
Now, you know, we've got to be going along, so...
Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
It's bye-bye from...
Mr. Dressup!
Bye!
Okay, so time for a look at the long-range forecast. How much longer is all this gray kind of mozzie type weather gonna last?
Yeah, it's going to stick around for a while. In fact, as we get towards the weekend, it's going to get even more wet as we see some more rain move in. So just settle in for a little while.
Settle in. Get your sweater out and your raincoat.
Yeah, all those things. That's a good idea. Yeah, but if we take a look at your Wednesday evening into your Thursday, another round of showers is going to move in for pretty much everybody. It'll start in the southwest. We'll still see some lingering shower activity for the Avalon as well, and up across Labrador. Really all across the province, it's going to be a bit unsettled. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be completely gray skies, because there are parts of the province that are going to see some sunshine, maybe even the northern peninsula, southeastern portions of Labrador for the first part of the day on Thursday, but that cloud cover will quickly move in, or fill in, I should say, with that chance of showers pretty much across the board as we head into the evening hours, and then maybe a little bit of a break again as we head into Thursday evening, Friday morning for the southwest. Here's your temperatures, though. Not really moving a whole lot. The forecast is essentially a carbon copy pretty much every day over the next couple of days, with some sun icons in there scattered here and there. But overall, you're looking at your temperatures between 11 or about 10 to 13 degrees across the Big Land, with northern portions of Labrador sitting a tad cooler than that. About 8 degrees will be your daytime high on Thursday. So into Thursday evening and then eventually Friday morning, this is when some of the heavier showers will move in up across Labrador, and then eventually across the island as well. More widespread areas of periods of rain, but as you note, these wind barbs, still easterly or southeasterly winds. That is going to keep us in that RDF. It's also going to keep those fog patches around as well. And then even heavier rain looks like moving in as we get into Saturday morning. Temperatures again, carbon copy somewhere between 12 to about 15 degrees through the day. Northern Peninsula cooler, single digits up across Labrador as well. Likely maybe around 10 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay, but not much different. This is right around where you should be sitting this time of year, and we're going to say goodbye, long goodbye, to those warm temperatures that we saw last week up across the Big Land. That's the forecast. As far as your temperatures are concerned, not moving much, from about 12 to 13 degrees is your daytime highs. Temperatures overnight will start to dip a little bit into the single digits as we get towards the weekend. Slight chance we'll see some sunshine the last half of the day for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland. At least now, that's what it looks like. That may change, but we'll hang on to that glimmer of hope there. And then for Central Newfoundland, you're looking at the rain, periods of rain, Friday and Saturday, some showers for your Sunday, and your daytime highs, again, 12 to 13 or 15 degrees through the day. And then for Western Newfoundland, similar forecast, some periods of rain for your Saturday. By Sunday, you're looking at showers and between 12 to 14 degrees as your afternoon highs. Now for Eastern Labrador, after maybe a bit of dry weather on Thursday, by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're looking at some showers. Temperatures 9-10 degrees, and for Western Labrador, a tad cooler than that as you hover in the single digits, but showers will be the story, and gray skies. And note your temperature when Sunday night down to the minus single digits. Now we're talking a lot about RDF. And this shot was taken, I believe, over the weekend.
Okay.
This is a fog bow.
A fog bow.
Yeah, at Cape Spear. So basically, essentially, well, you can kind of see some of the rainbow in there. But it's the same principle. You're looking at the water droplets refracting, and then some fog in there as well. And you're getting a fog bow. Okay. So Trina shared that great shot with us.
Is that kind of the same thing as, like, the spout? People hike up to the spout and the water comes up, and you kind of sometimes see a little like rainbow.
Yeah, exactly.
Or is that the same
kind of thing, but with the fog's just a bit more present in that in the fog bow. Yeah, so it's interesting. Very cool principle, I'd say.
Beautiful shot. Thank you so much for that. And keep them coming.
Yes,
we're loving some of the fall photos that we're getting too. The leaves are starting to come down, and their colors changing.
Yeah, when the red shows up, that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.